Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a mushroom statue from Mario. It's going to be fairly simple. If you want to make it, here's what you're going to need. You will need sandstone, you'll need black wool, white wool, and finally, red wool. That's right, you will only be needing those four materials, so once you have those and once you've figured out where you want to make it, I'm going to be making it right here. You're going to want to kick this off with a row of 8 sandstone in a row on the floor. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like so. Once you have your row of 8 sandstone, this is what you want to do, and you have to do this to both sides. So come to the left hand side of your row of 8, and starting from this end block right here, you want to do 2 up left diagonals. So 1 and 2. On top of the second up left diagonal, you want to go up by 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Like so. And once you've done that to one side, you want to do the exact same thing to the other side. So now coming over to the right hand side of our row of 8, from this end block, do 2 upright diagonals. So 1 and 2. On top of the second upright diagonal, go up by, you might have guessed it, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. To give you this shape right here. Very simple shape. Once you have this is what you want to do. So we basically want to have in total 7 layers of this shape that we have right here. So we're going to have to add 6 more on, and by layers I mean this. So this is going to be a layer. You just basically want to trace over what you already have a total of 6 times. So as you can see, I've done that the once. I'm now going to have to do that 5 more times to, in total, give us 7 layers of this. And I'm not going to do this on recording because it's going to take a while. I'll be back in a moment once I have what I've described. So I have just finished adding the layers to our original shape. As I said, 7 in total. It wants to end up looking a little something like this. And by 7 layers, quite obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Very easy indeed. So once you have this sandstone U-shape, this is what you want to do. And you have to do this on both sides, but we'll do it all to one side first. So this is what you want to do. Starting from the front, I have designated this the front. We'll place a red block there, just so we know, just so I know. This is what you want to do. So in front of our base row of 8 here, you want to place a row of 6, like this, coming towards you. And then from each end, you pretty much want to copy what we did at the very beginning with these these several rows here. So starting from the left end of our now row of 6, you want to do 2 up left diagonals. So 1 and 2. On top of the second up left diagonal, you want to go up by 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Like so. And you want to do the exact same thing on the right hand side. So coming over to the right hand side, do 2 upright diagonals. 1, 2. On top of the second upright diagonal, go up by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. To give you a shape which should look exactly like that. A ever so slightly smaller U shape. And once you've done that once, you want to do that again, but again, you want to do it ever so slightly smaller, so like this. Now in front of our row of 6, we now want to do a row of 4. And then you want to pretty much do the exact same thing that we've done quite a few times already. Starting from the left hand side of the row of 4, do 2 up left diagonals. 1, 2. That was a kerfuffle. On top of the second up left diagonal, go up by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. To give us the left hand side of our U. On top of the right hand side, or coming over to the right hand side I should say, do 2 upright diagonals. 1, 2. Then on top of the second upright diagonal, go up by 4. To give you something which should look like this. And the shape that we've just made now, the smallest of the U's, you then want to fill in the middle section of it in with sandstone. This is the most outward part of our mushroom. This is going to be the little face. So you're going to want to have something which should look, once you've filled it in, a little bit like this. Kind of looks like a really weird plant pot. And once you've done this to the front of your mushroom statue, you want to go and do the exact same thing on the back, so pause this if necessary, of course. Once you've done that, as I said, time to go and do the same thing on the back. So coming over to the back here, in front of our row of 8, do the row of 6, and then just add the 2 wings of the U. I'm doing this a little bit faster, as you can see. It's not very complicated, I just like to go slow the first time, really highlight what you've got to do. So as you can see, the first U that we've added, ever so slightly smaller. Once you've done that, the most outward U, which is just a row of 4, and then we just have to do the 2 additions on the side, which is just the 2 upright diagonals / up left diagonals, and then you just go up by 4 to give you something which should look like this. And then once you've reached this point right here in which you've done the U that has the row of 4 on the bottom, you then just fill in the most outward face to give you something which, once you've finished it, should look a little bit like this. Very easy indeed. As I said, kinda resembles a plant pot or something. I don't know. That's what I'm seeing here. Maybe even a bowl. Maybe a clay bowl or something. Anyway, once you've reached this point right here, you have successfully completed half of your mushroom. This is the bottom half. This is going to have the face on it on the front, the little disturbed looking face. I'm not sure what Mario does to these mushrooms. I'm not sure whether he eats them. As soon as he touches them, he seems to just absorb them, but he could be doing anything with them. Once you've reached this point right here, it's now time for us to do the upper half, and I'm going to be back once we have the daylight. Alright, so moving on to the top section of our mushroom, come over to the left hand side of your mushroom, where we have these 7 rows here, and starting from this first row, going left of this first top sandstone block, kinda difficult to describe, but you guys can see which one I mean, you want to do 1 red going left of this block right here, like so. Then do an up left diagonal from that red block. Then go up on top of that diagonal by 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then do an upright diagonal. And go up by 1. Then do 2 upright diagonals. So 1 and 2. Go to the right of the second diagonal by 1. Then do another upright diagonal. And go to the right by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then do a bottom right diagonal. Go to the right by 1. Then do 2 bottom right diagonals, so 1 and 2. Go down by 1 from the second bottom right diagonal. Then do another bottom right diagonal. And go down by 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Then finish this off by doing a bottom left diagonal, which is pretty much just placing a block right there to give you a shape which should look like this. And this is going to be the base layer for the top of our mushroom. So this is what we want to do next. Remember how at the very beginning of this tutorial we had to add 6 layers of sandstone on top of the original base U shape? Well, it's the exact same story for this big red bulbous shape right here. You're going to want to do 6 more layers of it, and these 6 layers want to be in line with these 7 layers of sandstone that we have on the base of our statue. So you want to do this essentially. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Of course, you can stop counting at a certain point. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc, etc. I think that you guys can see exactly what I'm doing here. I'm just adding the 6 layers onto every single red block coming towards the back of the statue. So I'm going to cut away and finish this off, and I will be back once I have 7 layers of this big red shape here. So I have just finished adding the many layers of red. It didn't take too long, it wasn't too painful. As you can see, the layers of red are in line with the 7 layers of sandstone that we have on the base of our statue, which is perfectly correct. There should be 7 layers of red in total. I'm not going to count them, but you can just take my word for it. So once you've done that, and as always, pause this if necessary if you're still working on that, of course, it's time for us to continue on. And we're going to start this on the front of the statue, although, as with pretty much everything else on the statue, you've got to do the exact same thing to the back as you do the front. So starting on the front, this is what you want to do. Come to this point right here, this sandstone block. I'm not going to try and describe it for you, but you should find it fairly easy to find it. This is what you want to do once you've located it. Place a red block in front of it. Then place a red block going left. Then go up on top of that left red block by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then do an upright diagonal. Then go up by 1. Then do another upright diagonal. Go to the right by 1. Then do another upright diagonal. And go to the right by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then do a bottom right diagonal. Go to the right by 1. Then do another bottom right diagonal. And go down by 1. Then do another bottom right diagonal. And go down by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then finish this off by going left by 1 to give you a shape which should look exactly like this. As you can see, you're kind of just going along the inside of the previous big red bulbous shape that we have, but unfortunately it isn't quite that simple. So this is what you want to have for the second layer of the top of our mushroom. Let's move on to layer number 3. I just have to adjust my plan slightly. There we go, guys. So moving on to layer number 3. Coming roughly to where we started off just before, except this time in front of this sandstone block right here. I'll give you a moment to locate that. You're going to want to do something pretty similar to what we just did. Place a red wall in front of that sandstone, then go left by 1. Then go up on top of that left block by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then do an upright diagonal. Then go up by 1. Then right by 1. Then do an upright diagonal. Then go right by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then do a bottom right diagonal. Go right by 1. Then down by 1. Then do another bottom right diagonal. Go down by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then finish this off by going left by 1 to give you something which should look like this. That is layer number 3. Pause this if necessary, of course. Once you've done that, it's time for us to move on to layer number 4. So come to this point. Actually, as a matter of fact, it's a little different for this layer. So this is what you want to do. Where we have this long row here, which involves a couple of red on each side and a miscellaneous amount of sandstone, this is what you want to do. You want to do a row of red in front of that multicolored row, and you just want to have the red be one shorter each side than the row behind it. If that makes any sense at all. It's kind of really difficult to describe, but I think it's really easy to see what I've just done there. I've just done a row of red that is just one shorter each side than the red / sandstone row that I've just done. And once you've done that row, this is what you want to do. Coming over to the left hand side of the, I'm not exactly sure how long this row is, on top of this left block right here, you want to go up with your red by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then go to the right of that top block by 1. Then go up by 1. Then go right by 1. Then go up by 1. Then go right by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then go down by 1. Then go right by 1. Then go down by 1. Then go right by 1. Then go down until you hit the very long row that we started with, which should give you something that should look a little bit like this. This is layer number 4. Very simple. Once you've done that, and as always, pause this if necessary of course, it's time for us to move on to the 5th and final layer. So this layer starts off very similar to how the previous layer did. So in front of this long row of red, again I'm not exactly sure how long it is, I think it's a row of 10 but don't quote me on that, it doesn't matter. You want to start this off by doing a long row of red in front of the previous long row, and you just want to knock one off of each end, like this. Very simple indeed. And once you've done that, you then want to come over to the left hand side of the long row and go up on top of this left block by 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You then want to do an upright diagonal, followed by another upright diagonal. Then go to the right by 3. 1, 2, 3. Then do 2 bottom right diagonals, so 1 and 2. Go down from the second bottom right diagonal until you reconnect with the original long row of red, which should give you something that should look a little bit like this. This is the most outward layer of the top of our mushroom. Once you've done that, you then just want to fill in this most outward layer in with red wool to give you something which should look a little bit like this. Look at that. That wasn't so hard, was it? Once you've done that to the front hand side of your mushroom, it's now time for us to do it to the back side of your mushroom. So as always, pause this if necessary of course. Once you've done that, you're going to want to go ahead and come to the backhand side of your mushroom. So come to the back here, and as I said, we're pretty much going to be doing the exact same thing that we've already done. So layer number 2 for the back of the mushroom, you're going to want to locate this block right here on the back, place a red in front of it, then go left of it by 1, then go up by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then do an upright diagonal. Then go up by 1. Then do another upright diagonal. Go to the right by 1. Then do another upright diagonal. Go to the right by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then do a bottom right diagonal. Go to the right by 1. Then do another bottom right diagonal. Go down by 1. Then do another bottom right diagonal. Go down by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Finish this off by going left by 1 to give you something which should look a little bit like this. That is layer number 2. That should be very familiar to you. Once you've done layer number 2, it's now time for us to move on to layer number 3. So as always, pause this if necessary of course, let's move on to layer number 3. So coming back over to the left hand side here, and this time going in front of this sandstone block, place a red directly in front of it. Then go left by 1. Then go up by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then do an upright diagonal. And go up by 1. Then go right by 1. Then do an upright diagonal. Go right by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do a bottom right diagonal. Go right by 1. Go down by 1. Do a bottom right diagonal. And then go down by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Finish this off by going left by 1. To give you something which should look a little bit like this. This is layer number 3. I'm going to be back with layer number 4 as soon as it's light again. Pause this if necessary, of course. You should be able to see that easy enough. It's a very simple layer. So, moving on to layer number 4, this is where I goofed slightly on the other side. So, this is how you want to start this off. In front of a very long row of sandstone / red wool, we want to do a row of red wool. The row of red wool wants to be one shorter either side than the previous row, to give you something which should look a little bit like this. And through my calculations, I'm almost positive that this is a row of 10. I'm not going to count it, but my maths is infallible, as you guys know. Starting from the left-hand side of our new row of 10, you want to go up on top of this left block by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then go to the right by 1. Then go up by 1. Then go right by 1. Then go up by 1. Then go to the right by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then go down by 1. Then go right by 1. Then go down by 1. Then go right by 1. Then go down until you hit the row that we started off with, the long row, to give you something which should look a little bit like this. This is layer number 4. Now it's time for us to do our 5th and final layer. So in front of our, as I said, I'm almost positive that this is a row of 10, but you know how it is. In front of our row of 10, we now want to form a row of 8 red wool, like so. Once you've done that row of 8 red wool, starting from the left hand side here, this left block, you want to go up on top of it by 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then do 2 upright diagonals, so 1, 2. Then go to the right of the second upright diagonal by 3, so 1, 2, 3. Then do 2 bottom right diagonals, so 1 and 2. Then go down from that second bottom right diagonal until you hit the long row of red that we started off with. You should end up with a shape that looks exactly like this, and you guys know what to do at this point. It's now time for us to colour this shape in a little bit, so let's just fill it in with red and we will be finished. So this is what it wants to look like once you have completed the backside of the top half of your mushroom. Looking good if you ask me, looks pretty mushroom shaped. As always, pause this if necessary if you're still working on that. Once you have finished working on it, it's now time for us to move on to the final details of our mushroom. And when I say details, I quite literally mean details. So at this point, the mushroom is completely symmetrical, so you can really choose which side you want to be the front and which side you want to be the back. That's your choice, of course, but I've already decided which side is going to be our front. It's now time for us to add the eyes, so this is what you want to do for the eyes. It's best if I just do this and show you what they're supposed to look like. They're very simple indeed. They are just 2 black blocks each in those positions right there on the front of your statue, the big flat plane on the front. So, once you've added in the eyes, we have only one thing left to do, and unfortunately for us, this is one of the more technical / irritating parts of this. We've got to add in all of the white blotches / speckles / whatever you want to call them to the top part of the mushroom. So, this is how it's gonna go. I'm going to individually add all of the little white patches that exist on the top half of our mushroom, and then I'm just going to show you guys the end result. So I'm going to do this all on recording, of course, but this is how it's going to go. For example, this is blotch number 1, white blotch number 1. It's on the very front of our mushroom statue. I figured that this would be the easier way round to do it, rather than trying to build them in to our statue as we were actually building the shape. I figured this would be a lot easier for explaining purposes. So that is white blotch number 1 on the very front. You should be able to identify very clearly where that is, what shape that is, how I've done that. You should be able to find that all very simple. Pause that if necessary, of course. White blotch number 2. So number 2 is on the side of our mushroom statue here. It's going to look a little warped from certain views, since, you know, it as I said, it is on the side. Oh, messed up slightly. Since it is on the side, but it'll look pretty decent from the front and the actual proper side views. So there you go, that is white blotch number 2. As I said, looking a little warped from this angle, but it'll look better from different views. Pause that if necessary, of course. Once you've done that, it's time for us to move on to white blotch number 3. So coming to the opposite side, pretty much in the exact same position as we have just placed the white blotch on the other side of our statue. All of the blotches are very similar in shape. They do vary ever so slightly in size, but they're pretty much the exact same shape. As you can see, that is white blotch number 3. Very simple indeed. Pause that if necessary, of course. Let's move on to white blotch number 4. But first, actually, let me just show you. You see, from the front view, they actually look pretty decent, like those side ones, but it's just when you catch them at the right angle, they look a little funky. So, moving on to white blotch number 4, coming over to the left-hand side of our mushroom. Number 4 is actually positioned a little higher up, so let's just do this. There's no real point in me trying to explain positioning and, you know, how you want to do this. I think it should all be fairly self-explanatory, really. So this is on the left-hand side of your mushroom. Should be fairly easy again to identify exactly what I've done there. That is blotch number 4. Pause that if necessary, of course. Let's move on to blotch number 5. So coming over to the back left-hand corner of our statue now, right here, this is what you want to do. And again, I've already said this a couple of times, I think, but they're all pretty much the exact same shape. Sizes vary, so there you go. That is blotch number 5. That is on the back left-hand corner of your mushroom. Pause that if necessary, of course. Let's move on to blotch number 6. So, blotch number 6 is actually directly on the back here. It's on the upper half of the back, so let me just do this. I think I probably did make the right decision. I think that if we would have actually tried to build the blotches in to the actual structure whilst we were doing that, I think that this tutorial would have taken at least 70 minutes longer. So there you have it. That is blotch number 6. Pause this if necessary, of course. Once you've finished that, it's now time for us to move on to blotch number 7. Blotch number 7 is located on the back right-hand corner of our mushroom, and just like all of the other corner blotches, it shares the exact same shape and size, except it's positioned ever so slightly differently to the front 2 corners. So that is what you want for blotch number 7. Pause that if necessary, of course. Once you've done that, it's now time for us to move on to the 8th and final blotch, which is bigger than the average bear. It's located on the upper right-hand side of your mushroom and is almost completed. We're a little over halfway there. Let's see here. There you go. That is the 8th and final blotch on the top right-hand side of your mushroom. Pause this if necessary, of course. Once you've completed that, it's time to give yourself a big pat on the back, because once you have done that 8th and final blotch, you have successfully completed the mushroom. I want to give you guys a nice little tour around the mushroom now, just so that you guys can see exactly what it is supposed to look like. So once you have reached this point in the video right here, the tutorial is now officially over. There is nothing left for me to show you. Just in case you're wondering whether there is any left, there's not. I've shown you all I can, young Padawan. So in regards to the blotches, I know that that's a particularly irritating part of this tutorial. It irritated me, trust me, but again, I think that that definitely was the easiest way to go about it, really. I can't think of an easier way. I think that, again, if I would have tried to build it into the actual, like, top of the structure of the mushroom, I think that that would have just been the worst. The worst. It would have been awful. So, there you go. And of course, you can move them around if you want to. Remove some, change the shape of the blotches, just move them about if you want to. It's completely up to you. It's your statue. Do what you want. It's funny how many messages I get about this. Like, can I, you know, for instance, like, instead of using red, can I use green? Of course you can use green. It's your statue. Do what you want with it. It's completely up to you. Make it bigger. Claim it as yours. It's completely up to you. I designed it, but I didn't design the actual initial, like, Mario mushroom. Some guy at Nintendo did that. So, do what you want. there you go, that's the mushroom. I hope that you guys found this easy enough to follow. It's not really a particularly difficult statue, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Hope you found it easy enough to follow. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial. I think I'm going to try and get a house done for you guys. If not, a house is coming in the very, very near future.